What's up, guys? It's your boy, and today we are talking about something that has really kind of weighed on my mind a little bit since visiting the wonderful country that is Japan, and that's the idea of escapism. Now, escapism being the kind of wanting to go away from reality and wanting to go into a better place and something that's more idealized in your mind. And I feel like anime does that quite a bit, and I'll get into how it does so, but before I do that, if you could do me a quick favor and go ahead and click like and subscribe on this video, I'm gonna do the thing. Over 60% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. There, I did it. So if you would do that, it's really appreciated, and let's get on to today's topic. So I actually found, of all things, a scholarly style article on kind of escapism in anime. And I'm gonna start with the best possible part of a scholarly article, the conclusion, because that's where you can get all the good stuff. And it's interesting, it says, in terms of the way in which anime represents the world and values, owning to anime's flexibility and lesser limitations, it is an effective tool for transporting and delivering values and opinions. Anime offers the possibility to represent space and time in a way that is different from the common perception put forward by live-action film, which depicts the animated world or the fictional reality in a different way to the objective real world. And it talks about kind of how it doesn't do this in kind of a negative way, but it does so in a more idealized way, which is pretty common in anime. I mean, I could talk about how something like Evangelion heavily promotes escapism and the need for it and feeling kind of trapped, because Evangelion is the anime that I talk about a lot, and it's one that when people talk about escapism as a theme, Evangelion's brought up a lot. The temptation to talk about it was very strong, but I'm actually going to stray away from that a little bit because it's just such an obvious choice. And I'm going to talk about another favorite of mine for a minute, and then talk about a genre in general. The specific one I'm going to talk about is Your Lie in April. And it actually talks about escapism not using the themes of typical Japanese life, well, kind of to an extent, in an instrumental sense. And a lot of people in Japan do play a classical instrument of some sort, whether that's piano, whether that's violin, whether that's like a brass instrument, like a trumpet or a trombone, whatever it may be. What Your Lie in April does is it takes the protagonist, Kosei, and puts him in a situation where he is just kind of empty inside and doesn't want to play music anymore due to some extending circumstances. I won't spoil it, as it's something that, if you have not watched it, you absolutely should. It's a very good slice-of-life drama that I recommend to pretty much anybody. But the idea behind it is he meets somebody from the outside who comes into his life and is able to inspire him to get out of his mindset, this escapism element of, I am trapped in a certain bubble and I can never get out of it. And if it isn't for the character that ends up coming into the show and inspiring Kosei, then I don't know if it ever would have happened. And he might have gotten in this loop where he never would have gotten to play music in any capacity ever again. Again, I won't spoil it too much, but I would highly recommend watching that show. But that's on the more dramatic end of things. And a lot of dramas kind of have that, where it's a theme of inspiration, right? You're kind of a mundane person who is down, who's kind of a downer on his life, and then somebody comes in and makes life exciting again. Makes life just entertaining in some way, shape, or form, to the point where I think people who kind of have a more optimistic view on life are almost outliers and make for some good shows as well. I think Steins Gate's a really good example of this. The lead character in Steins Gate is mad scientist Hohoin Kyoma, and he lets people know that, and he's just kind of quirky and kooky and, over the top and fun. But I think he's more the exception rather than the rule. Riddle me this, when was the last time you heard about an isekai, about a guy who is a complete, weeb loser type or gamer nerd type who gets put into a video game fantasy world after being teleported because he got, got hit by Truck-kun or whatever? Most of the people in those isekais, I won't say all of them, I don't want to generalize too much here, but a lot of those MCs in isekai are loser gamer types. And I think there may be, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that might be because there's a lot of people in Japan who kind of fit into that mold, this kind of loneliness that you can see. And really, it's interesting because if you go to Japan, Japan's a wonderful country, and I love a lot of the things about it. But people who have lived there for extended amounts of time will tell you that it's really hard to make friends with locals. Not that they're like, they don't want to meet you, but it's just kind of, it's almost like there's a barrier, and it's hard to break through that threshold beyond the oh yeah, I am from a foreign country piece of things, right? Which, it's not bad to talk about the differences in the cultures that you come from, don't get me wrong, but it can be hard to go further than that in relationships in Japan. But I would wager to say that there's probably a percentage of people there who have trouble making friends with people in Japan. It's a very reserved kind of culture. So I can't speak for them, and I don't want to sound like I'm speaking for them, but it wouldn't surprise me, because everybody kind of keeps to themselves, that it is a lot harder than possibly here in America, where you can just be like, how's it going, to some random guy on the street, and they'll be like, it's going pretty good, how are you? America's kind of different in that regard. But escapism as a theme in anime is so prevalent, and I can't help but think that you can see it because of the cultural differences in Japan with kind of how reserved they are as a culture. And I think that this is most prevalent, not with isekai, though it's pretty prevalent there. I think it is most obvious with slice of life comedies. And I would know, because I watch a lot of them. It's really my guilty pleasure genre. Those, like, set in a school, and there's just kind of bland, like, slice of life comedies. You've seen a million of them. At least one comes out every single season. And you know what? They're fun. They're not the greatest thing ever, and I won't say that they are, but they are at the very least kind of entertaining. And those shows typically focus on kind of the mundane parts of life, but they make them exaggerated based on character archetypes for entertainment. It takes the boring parts of life and says, hey, what if it was entertaining? And I think one of the best shows that does this, a slice of life show that is just perfect at this, and it just takes it to a whole other level, is Nichijou. Because Nichijou takes a lot of aspects of Japanese life, more so than most anime, because a lot of anime are kind of relatable to an American audience in a lot of ways, but Nichijou uniquely has parts of Japanese life that I didn't even really know existed until I went to Japan, and kind of saw them for myself, like some like street vendor things, for instance, that are a lot more prevalent there. Little things like that are exaggerated to the nth degree, so much so that it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a hilarious show, but it just takes these little parts of mundane life and exaggerates it to the nth degree, and I really think it's that idea of escapism, that idea that people in Japan, that's what they want their life to be like. They want it to be more kind of exciting, and not to say that we don't in our daily life, but I think that's why you see it so much more as a prevalent thing in anime as a theme. Like, there's just so many of them that I thought it was something interesting, and something that I would love to hear your opinions on. Maybe you disagree with my premise or something like that. So if you have kind of an opinion on maybe why escapism is such a prevalent theme in anime, or maybe you don't even think so, please leave a comment. I'd love to read it. But I read one other paragraph of this research paper here, and I'll leave the link to it in the description. It says, anime consumption and the subcultures derived from it can reflect a group of people who prefer a life philosophy that is distinct from or even opposite to the mainstream proposition in current society. Specifically, the animated world without burden and duties is more ideal for anime fans. Anime fans are thought to be obsessed with the fictional reality created by anime and share similar characteristics with extreme individuals and those that have infantilism, which is linked with the desire to get rid of reality, refusing to take on adult obligations, and avoiding being part of civil society. And if you're not so familiar with, like, maybe the term otaku, which is essentially anime fans to a fault, they do exist. I'm not quite there yet. We'll get back to me in a couple years. We'll see how it goes. But I think the closest thing that we have here in America to that would be Disney adults. And if you want to know more about Disney adults and kind of the craziness about them, go watch Curtis Connor. He has a great video on Disney adults. But essentially, Disney adults are people who not only like enjoy Disney movies, but also like live close to the theme park so that they can go so many times a year and obsess, like get Disney tattoos and all this different stuff. Really just obsess over it, right? Essentially, this article goes to say, so long as you don't make it a problem, it's okay. But some people do make it a problem by staying away from reality so much that it becomes a problem, because there is an idealized version of reality in anime, and I don't think it's a bad thing to want better things out of your reality. I think everybody wants that, because life can suck sometimes. I know I've had hard times, and I'm sure you, the viewer, have had hard times, and if you haven't, how? Tell me about your life. But that said, I would love to know your thoughts on the topic. What do you think about escapism on anime? Do you think it's a prevalent theme? Do you not think it's a prevalent theme? I just found it's 37 pages. This article is 37 pages, and it just talked about escapism. And when I visited Japan, I saw how that could be a potential problem, and I thought I'd share that with you guys. So it's good to be back. I haven't done one of these type videos in a bit, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been Gelswick, and I will see you guys next week.